Well, according to our Book of the Month author, Raymond Charles Barker, happiness is a choice. Happiness is a choice. So if happiness is a choice, is unhappiness also a choice? Yeah, we know this to be true, don't we? Because we are always at choice on whichever way we want to be, whichever way we want to accept. This week, as I was reading the material and contemplating this truth, I had to ask myself, do I always choose happiness? And the answer is no, I don't. I don't always choose happiness. Sometimes I choose sadness. Sometimes I choose anger. Sometimes I'm not consciously choosing, but choice is happening. So my talk today is I Can't Get No Satisfaction. Now, why song titles came to me this month as I was preparing this series, I don't know, but they did, and I just rolled with them. So this week is I Can't Get No Satisfaction. And our series is The Power of Decision, based on our book. And the two decisions that we're going to look at today is happiness and living a richer life. Sounds like cool choices, doesn't it? And yet, we're not usually at that pinnacle of both of those all the time. So we're going to delve into that a little bit today and ask ourselves why we're not choosing happiness and richer living in every moment. The book is encouraging me to do what I call pause and ponder. And usually reading a book, we kind of go through it. And if I'm doing a study book, I'm highlighting or underlining and making notes and things. But sometimes, particularly in preparing for messages, I pause and I ponder. I put the book down and I really go within to explore the ideas that the author is presenting. And this book's doing that for me. It's encouraging me to do that on deeper level with some things like this idea of happiness and not choosing it. Not choosing it. So as I did my pondering, I came up with two reasons that I don't choose happiness. And as I think about them, and what Barker says is that they're really excuses. So these are my excuses. And the first one is when I was a little girl, I was a daddy's girl. And I worshiped that man. I thought he was outstanding. He was powerful. He was smart. And I was his little helper. I was at his elbow all the time. I wanted to help. I wanted to hand him the screwdriver and hold the light and do all those things. I was preparing for my future career, I guess. But I wanted to do that. And what else I was doing as this little tiny girl was paying attention to his behaviors. And what I watched was his tendency to use anger to get his way in the family. Big, boisterous, angry, he'd get his way. As a little bitty girl, I thought that was pretty cool. That's for me. I'm going to do that. You can imagine how that worked for me. But anyway, it did get buried in my little subconscious. What I missed as a child, the subtlety of that to a child who would definitely miss it, is the negative impact that that behavior had on the entire family, including him, right? And so I missed that. And as I've learned better as an adult, I do better most of the time. Most of the time. But sometimes that old program still gets played out of my subconscious. The reactions still come up. I still will use anger in an attempt to change somebody else's behavior. Am I alone in that? But I recognize it now, and I realize that that's an impossibility, and all it does is frustrate me further, right? Frustrate me further and make me look like a raving lunatic, as it did my father. But anyway, so examples of that would be if I'm inconvenienced or if my feelings get hurt, that reaction, that go-to low subconscious reaction might be to get angry. And so I've worked on that a lot over the years. My second excuse is my dear sweet mother. Now, I am not blaming my parents for my choice to be unhappy. Okay, I'm not doing that. I've done all that work. That's all gone. None of that stuff. But I am noticing the impact their actions had, their choices had on my subconscious and my decision making. And I think that's the power in that message, is to recognize not only the influence of our parents, but our teachers, our ministers, the people we hang out with even today, and the influence that they have on us for the way that we choose to react to things. So that's an important key to remember here. My mother was a great martyr. She was a good Christian woman. She read all the Bible stories and things, and I think she embodied some of that martyrdom that was talked about in the Bible. But she was a good martyr. She was also a little passive aggressive, and I didn't know what that meant until much later in life. But her actions taught me that when things went wrong, the sooner she accepted blame, the faster things would calm down. Things like when my dad got angry to get his way, if she took responsibility, he would calm down. I had a lovely childhood. I really did. I'm teasing. But then, after things calmed down, she had a tendency to be aggressive in the areas in the family, in the household, where she did have power. She'd be a little over aggressive in those areas. It's interesting now as I look back and tell this story, that how their reactions to life supported each other's negative reactions. Now, these two were married for 60 plus years. So they hung in there, but they were feeding each other in those negative reactions when they happened. So very fascinating. So discovering these negative behavior patterns that are buried deep in our subconscious, we've been talking about subconscious for a couple months now. That's the process. Discovering them is the beginning of the process to bring them to light and to heal them. To heal them, to make new choices, to implant new programming in our subconscious. First, we have to become aware. We have to discover it. And then we watch those actions. We pay attention to what we're doing in the world so that we can see how we're acting out. And sometimes it may be that the actions occur first and we're like, what is going on in my life? And then we begin to discover and become aware of it from that perspective. Those two go together. And then we begin to work on changing how we think so that we can implant those new programs, so we can implant those new ideas, those new ways of being, substitute behaviors, you might say, choosing our response as opposed to allowing those old reactions to come forward. For me, when I discovered these things, this wonderful subconscious stuff that was down there, I began to use the tools that we teach here in our spiritual center. I began to use the affirmations, affirming the new thinking that I wanted to create. I began to use prayer treatment to pray about it, to create the new belief that I was seeking to create. And I used forgiveness practice to do the forgiveness work for my parents, to forgive that little girl. All of us were doing the best we could in the moment. And how can I forgive all of that and now choose to be someone different as an adult woman? I'm no longer that little child. So that was the work that I did through the teaching of the science of mind, through the practices and principles that we teach here. And now I'm able to more frequently than before choose to be happy most of the time. When I'm talking about happy, I'm not talking about ha ha, laugh, laugh, happy necessarily. That's a good thing, right? We all like that part. But I'm really talking about joy. I'm talking about that underlying joy of confidently knowing that all is well. We are one in the divine. We are connected in spirit. We are whole, perfect, and complete. And knowing that and keeping my faith, and just no matter the storm that's happening around me, I know that there is that joy of the divine that is in me, as me, through me, that I have my life experience through, and that this too is a temporary condition and shall pass. That's the joy that I hold on to, even though the turmoil may happen. Sometimes I enter the turmoil. I try not to, but sometimes I do. Sometimes I do. What default programs are running in the background of your life? Because that's what that subconscious is, isn't it? It's the default programs that run in the background. And they can cause us to choose unhappiness sometimes. And it's not consciously just, I'm going to be unhappy. It's not a conscious thing. It's a reaction that creates unhappiness in us. It's a reaction that creates unhappiness in us. So the second point that I want to make today is really a half of a point. It's really a half of a point. Let me explain. Raymond Charles Barker says the majority of people live in part only. They are half healthy, half wealthy, half happy, and half creative. Half living is abnormal and unnecessary. Love this guy. Would have loved to have heard him in person. Well, this one caused me to pause and ponder too, right? Where am I living half a life? Is it in one of these areas? Is it in all of them? How about you? One, all, something? Is there something that maybe it's 3/4, maybe it's not half, maybe it's 90, maybe it's not 100? Where are we not living the richness of life that is available to us? When we're not experiencing life to its fullest, we've usually stepped into a rut of habit, of negative thinking, of negative processes, and we get stuck in that. We get stuck in that. Instead of, anybody familiar with Esther Hicks? Esther Hicks? Yeah, most of us are. She has this thing that she's said for many years now about the rockets of desire that we launch from our hearts, that we should take the expansion of that. Take the expansion. And if we're in a rut, we're not taking the expansion. And the expansion means the expansion of consciousness, right? Desires are new ideas that we as individuals have created of the divine, because they're always out there. And those new desires come to us, and that's the expansion of our consciousness. That's the growth and the evolution of who we are. And sometimes we don't take it. We say no. We say no. And so we don't take that expansion of consciousness that she's talking about. Oliver Wendell Holmes said that a mind stretched to a new idea never goes back to its original dimension. Once we've expanded our consciousness and we know that God is all there is, it's difficult to go back to a lesser God. We've expanded in our awareness. And that's what he's talking about. Stretching our minds, expanding our consciousness, and our spiritual, it's how we grow spiritually. We evolve, and eventually we'll transform our lives. If we really believed everything that we teach here about God, if we really believed all of that and who we are as spiritual beings, through the expansion of our mind, we would begin to accept and to live as we are in God. Barker has a great quote. He said, "We need to learn to know ourselves as we are in God." We need to learn to know ourselves as we are in God. We're the only ones that limit ourselves. God doesn't see us as limited, flawed beings in any way. God sees us as an individualization of the perfection that it is. And through its love, it's giving constantly to us the all that is. That is the richer life that is here for us. But we don't see ourselves that way. We don't see ourselves as that individualized expression of the perfection that the divine is. And that's what Barker is encouraging us to do. Learn to know ourselves as we are in God. This may be a new idea. All of this today may be a new idea to some of us. Raymond Charles Barker and Ernest Holmes Ernest Holmes, of course, the founder of our teaching, both talk about a new vocabulary is required for new ideas. A new vocabulary, new words are required for new ideas. Think about the invention of the horseless carriage. The horseless carriage, 1803 over in Europe. They took a wagon and they had devised a motor, steam engine or something. I didn't do all that research. And they took the horses off and the thing went. Oh my gosh, it's a horseless carriage and it's working. Well, horseless carriage sounds negative because it's horseless. It's gone. The horse is gone. So out of that, what evolved from that is the automobile, a brand new word. Do you see the 1950s TV commercials? Automobile. Remember? I mean, it was a big deal. It's a big romantic word. Automobile. The machines were big and luxurious. And from that came a whole textbook of language. Windshield wipers, bucket seats, 3 on the tree, 4 on the floor. All of that stuff, right? It's a whole new language. We've got all of our car shows coming up this month. And they talk about all that stuff, the pieces and parts. It's a new language for a new idea that manifested. We see it today in science and technology, don't we? How many new words have we learned? Floppy disk. Did you know what that was the first time you heard that word? I mean, we all had a vision of something that wasn't anything like what it looked like, right? Floppy disk. CDs. CDs have now gone pretty much bye-bye, haven't they? Everything's digital now. 8-track tapes, cassette tapes. Everybody knows the trick with the pencil and the cassette tape, right? We're all of that age in this room. So we learned the new language. We've all learned a lot of new language with new technology because new technology is new ideas that are being manifest into form. Cool stuff, yes? So what is the new language you're learning? Remember the first time you picked up the science of mind? The thing itself? God is it? What? This is what? Remember? Even now, reading the big book, some of us stumble over those words and go, what is he talking about? But it's a new language for new ideas. New thought is new ideas. Ernest Holmes says, God is a universal and infinite being, and also perfect law. The law of cause and effect. When we discard the ancient idea of the big guy in the sky, we undoubtedly lose a sense of personal contact with this invisible power, and we're liable to think of God only as a law or as an infinite it. Now, an infinite it is very adequate in certain respects, but in other respects, it's very inadequate. We could not derive much comfort, pleasure, or joy from talking to the principle of chemical affinity. Yet we do derive a great benefit from learning that such a law exists. Neither can we hope to get much satisfaction from thinking of God only as an infinite it. God is both infinite presence and impersonal power. We commune with the presence, we use the power. We commune, we romance the presence, we have our personal relationship with the presence, we use the power. We use the power. When we become more spiritually aware and we do this communing and using of the power, our consciousness expands and our understanding of the new definitions and explanations of the old spiritual teachings and the ancient ideas, then we begin to become more illumined, enlightened in new understanding, more expanded in consciousness. We learn things like God is mind instead of the dude in the sky with the beard on the throne, right? We understand that as humans, we are divine individualizations of God. We're not born in sin. We're not even sinners. We're of a loving God. When we begin to understand the metaphysical interpretations of the Bible and of Jesus' teaching, we expand our consciousness even more and our acceptance of who we are, because that was the message, who we are as divine beings of light and love. We're each born with a silver spoon. We've all heard that phrase, but we're each born with a silver spoon, and it is God's pleasure to give us the kingdom. God is always giving. It is simply up to us to receive, to accept, to know our individualization of the one, that we are spirit in form, and to accept that. Our nature is to choose, and unfortunately, many choose not to receive this inheritance. So today I've decided to receive. I've decided to be happy, and I'm choosing to live a richer life. And I hope that you will join me in that. So if you'd like to study these principles and learn more about them, you can sign up for our Mindful Monday email that comes out. It's a review of the talk. It's the practicing the principles that we're going to go through here in just a couple of minutes. Folks at home, you can sign up with the QR code. The email at revjill@scottsdalecsl.org, or you can sign up in the lobby. We'll get you on that list. All right, number one is Task Manager. Anybody got a computer? Anybody run Windows? Anybody know what Task Manager is? Task Manager is the thing in the background that runs, that tells us all the other things that are running in the background, right? All of our computers have all of these little operating system programs that are running. And we can launch the Task Manager, we can look at it, and we can make changes. Well, our subconscious is not quite that easy, but we have a lot of programs running in the background of our subconscious. And so we have a Task Manager in our mind that we can choose to open and to look into. So that's our first practice this week, is to open the Task Manager of your mind and see what default programs are running there for you and causing you to choose to be unhappy. Use meditation or contemplation and ask yourself these questions. Am I always happy? Am I always happy? Where am I choosing not to be? Knowing nothing external to me has the power to make me unhappy? What within me, or why am I choosing unhappiness in this area of my life? Use your contemplation, your journaling, and ask yourself those questions. Number two, expect the best. Healthy expectations are necessary to our use of the creative process. Did you know that? Expectations are part of the creative process. As spiritual beings, we should expect the best in our lives because we exist in a divine bounty. It's here for us. There's a cornucopia of good in front of each one of us. And the creative process works through our desire, our decision, and then our expectancy that decision is going to be fulfilled. Imagine if we prayed and didn't expect it to be answered. Would we have any energy in the prayer? And the energy within the prayer is that which activates the law of our lives. So expectation is a very important part of the creative process. Expecting the good that we're praying for to come forward. I have a desire. I've decided to accept that desire and take action on it. And now I expect it to manifest because that's how the process works. Understanding what our subconscious is expecting us to experience is a key to uncovering a richer life. Are you always waiting for the other shoe to drop? Have you ever said that in your life? If you have, scratch it from your vocabulary. These are things to look for. Are you always waiting for the other shoe to drop? Is your life so good it can't possibly last? Or so bad it can't possibly get any better? Do you ever win? A lot of people say, I never win anything. Our Grant Carson said that. I've never won anything in my life. Wow, now I won $1 million house. Things never work out for me, never go my way. Somebody's always out to get me. These are the things that are in that subconscious that come out in these cliches that we use. So these are some common subconscious beliefs that are deeply buried, and yet they influence us every single day because we react to things with those cliches that are coming up from our subconscious. So this week, ask yourself, what do I really expect in my life at this present time? Listen to your self-talk. Listen to your conversations. Notice when you get stressed, what's your reaction? Notice when you're disappointed in something, what's your reaction? Is it, oh, wasn't mine, I'm going to choose again? Or is it, nothing good ever happens to me, I'm not surprised, it's no wonder? Those are the things that create the life that we live. So watch that stuff this week. Make a list of all of those things. Be honest with yourself. Let it all come out. Don't try to make it perfect and just be positive. Let the negative stuff come out too, because that's the stuff you've got the opportunity to heal. That's where you've got the opportunity to heal. All right. Let's close with a quote from our book of the month. The moment you decide to live a richer life, your consciousness will devise the ways and means of your having it. It will demonstrate for you when you are certain you want it and have decided to have it. This week, I invite you to join me in deciding to be happy and choosing a richer life. So it is. All right. Now it's your turn. We're going to talk about it. What would you like to talk about? About happiness, not happiness, richer living, any of the above? Annie.
Actually, it's funny. I was just talking about it this morning, about how I came to the realization that while I was deciding to find something to learn to help other people and go to school and go to classes, I also realized that I like to travel a lot. And I can't lock myself into a school in which I cannot allow myself time to leave and travel around. So I signed up for like 11 online classes. But in the process of learning and doing other classes, I've learned where I need to go and what I need to do. And I found this is where I needed to do and what I needed to go. And my first class, which sounds pretty amazing, psychology and body language profiling. Oh my gosh, so much fun. Anyway, that's what I want.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Who else? Happiness, richer living, anything else? Nothing?
So it's funny because this morning, or was it yesterday, I was telling myself I'm going to have an excellent birthday week. No matter what happens, it's going to be a great week. And I try to totally be positive about everything. So yeah, it's going to be a great birthday.
There you go. Already is. Already is. And that's how we do it, right? That's how we do it. We don't fret and worry about whatever. We just accept that it's going to be good. And I'll make the best of whatever happens anyway. These are mindsets. These are beliefs. These are the ways that we transform the negative things in our lives. Who else? Mark, you have something? Okay. All right. You were squirming like maybe. Are y'all getting tired of this part? No. Okay. All right. Just asking. Wait, now I got two. Yay. Go ahead, Colette.
Something just
Over
came to
you.
mind so I thought, well, maybe I'll bring this up. You know, when you talk about feeling your feelings, I think that's a good practice, you know, to be real with yourself and feel different things. So what's the difference between feeling sad and, you know, okay, I want to be sad right now. What's the difference with that as compared to, no, I have to be happy all the time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Choosing our feelings and to be in the century. This is kind of on the minister's listserv this week. Um, Having our feelings and choosing to experience them is good for us because otherwise we end up repressing or stuffing them down. The key is to not live in them, to be of this world but not in it, to not build a condo in the feelings. You know, that's what we have a tendency to do. We have a tendency to get stuck and to experience anger but not be an angry person, to experience sadness but not be a sad person, to experience those negative emotions but not be that negative emotion. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Basically, it's a matter of, okay, if you're going to wallow in sadness or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
as compared to just feeling it and having to go through it. Because that's always been my belief in life. I feel all my emotions, I'm just going to go right through them.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, I am a happy person, joyful. My middle name is Joy. Well, you know, that's my
Yeah.
joyful.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Emotions mean movement. So it's emotions move through us, but who are we choosing to be? I'm choosing to be joy. I'm choosing to be happiness. But I have experiences of these other emotions. I'm just not going to live there. Yeah. Thank you. Good question.
What she brought up, it's actually, and what you were saying about it, I actually have a question about that. Like, for instance, people who are quick to anger,
Mm-hmm.
but they're also, as soon as they blow up, it blows away.
Mm-hmm.
Is that also a way okay? I mean, it's done, they've experienced it, and it's over with. But it doesn't mean that they're not going to keep doing it at some point. But they look at it, well, if I hold it in and I repress it, it just builds up. Whereas if I just let it out, it's gone.
My suggestion would be if you're experiencing that, if I'm experiencing that, I look at that and ask, why am I getting so angry that it pops the top off rather than being able to process that emotion in a more powerful way or a more productive way through conversation, negotiation, compromise, whatever it might be. Why is it that the whole pot blows up and explodes as opposed to just a little steam and working it out? So something deeper emotionally going on there that causes that over the top kind of thing.
It's just that I've met people who don't see that as necessarily bad.
Mm-hmm.
They just let it out right away.
Who are they hurting in that moment? Exactly. Yeah. See, that's the thing. It's doing harm to those around them. And so toning that down a little bit and finding a better way to express it or to express it in private if they've really got to explode like that. Um, Something else going on there. Something else going on there, in my opinion.
It's also building up high blood pressure and then they have a heart attack.
Danita, you may have to stand up a little bit. There you go.
Welcome to the Oprah show, right?
Yeah.
So anyway,
Nice.
so I was really engaging on the part about task management because I'm a task manager and I sort of feel like, and I take pride in my brain running like a hard drive. I have all these compartments. And I feel like when you said that and looking at programs that are running in the background, I started realizing that I'm spending so much time taking care of other people, and that is my go-to, is to kind of like default to taking care of other people. And I don't spend enough time looking at my own life and examining myself and where I'm not really full.
Mm.
And it just kind of dawned on me, just that whole thing about, like task management. And how can I somehow like have enough time to look at my own life if I have all these people in my life that I'm constantly giving love? Because in one of my other practices, that is love, is support
Hmm.
and presence in other people's lives. So I think I just got to figure it out. But if you got any input on that?
Balance. Yeah, I mean, again, we can do it all. We can do it all. We can give, we can receive, we can go within, we can do it all. We just have to find the way to balance all of those things in our life. And, it may be tipped a little bit in one way or the other to that which brings you the greatest joy. But we have to recognize in that we still need to have balance. Because if we're a caregiver and we're giving all of ourselves away, we got nothing left. So we've got to pull it back in and find that balance to take care of ourselves, taking care of others, giving to the world, giving to ourselves, giving to our families, and all of that. So it's finding that balance of life. Yeah. One more. Anybody else? Last opportunity. All right. Thank you all for sharing. I appreciate you. As long as you keep enjoying doing that, we'll keep doing it. I'm happy to do it. What? No, it's the Reverend Jill show. All right. So, speaking of Reverend Jill, let's do a prayer. How about that? Will you join me? So, as we go within, we recognize the infinite presence, communing with the presence. And we also recognize the power that it is. And it is so expansive as presence and as power. It is infinite. It is beyond anything we can imagine. It is love that loves so much that it has given all and continues to give all to that which it has created. It is joy and peace and harmony and balance. It is wisdom and intelligence. All of it is here now, individualized through me and as me. And as I know this for myself, I know that for each one of us gathered here today, those joining us now online and those joining us later, recognizing there's no separation at all between any of us at any time. We are all connected in this wholeness that is life at all times, unified with each other, with the divine, with all that there is. And so from this place, I speak my word for about each one of us, knowing and claiming the divinity that we are, recognizing that each of us is an individualized expression of the perfection that God is. And that's how God sees us. And we accept that in this moment. We know our own individualization as the perfection of the divine, as that love and that balance and that joy. We are that which it is. And I know for each of us that we discover, embody, embrace, and express our happiness, our underlying joy, and we accept, choose and accept the richer life that is ever available to us, that Spirit is always tapping on our hearts to give to us and through us. We say a hearty yes right here and now to that. I know for anyone that has anything on their heart this day, as they lift it into the consciousness of this prayer, of this community this morning, that we lovingly hold this beloved, hold this prayer, knowing its manifestation in their lives right here, right now. That whatever needs to be revealed is revealed. If there's clarity or balance or harmony or healing, that it is done. If there is abundance or flow that needs to occur, that it is abundantly resourced. That ideas flow to and through us effortlessly and with ease, and that we are brave and courageous in taking action on each one of those for the fuller expression and expansion of our lives. How grateful I am for this knowing. Grateful for the manifestation of the prayer, and it was with great joy and thanksgiving, that I release it into the action and activity of law, knowing that it is done. It is so. And we affirm this truth together by saying, and so it is.